Welcome in Broncos country for another episode of Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, joining me all the way from Seattle, Mr. Nick Kendell. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, just got through the rush hour traffic to get back here. There's not as much due to most people working from home in this area, but able to leave a little bit early from the office and get here on time, and that's good news because that means I can be joined by Carl Dumler for our first post-game reaction episode of the live stream series. So really excited to be here, really excited to have the chat here, and excited to talk some Broncos football. Obviously, coming off a loss, one that was a lot like a lot of 2019 losses. It hurts, but coming in here, being able to talk with you guys, being able to talk with the chat now for the first time, I think that's going to be a very medicinal experience for myself and hopefully for the rest of you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I always take a day after a loss just to kind of stay away from social media, stay away from everything. Just with our show today, that wasn't possible. But at the same time, I mean, I was proud of a lot of people seeing them not completely overreact, at least on Twitter. Facebook's a whole new – that's sometimes you get a little crazy over there. Nothing against you people watching on Facebook, but it is kind of – it's emotional. I mean, we're all tied into this, and victories are a sweet feeling. Losses hurt like crazy. And, losing with 17 seconds left on the clock, it hurts. It hurts a lot. But at the same time, there were a lot of good things that happened in that game, especially seeing it from a young team, no offseason, and just kind of jumping in there with a lot of players injured. I mean, huge players. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses or say that we got the moral victory or anything like that. But there are still some positives moving forward, and the season is not lost just because the Broncos lost to the Titans week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it gets tough from here. I don't want to say that week 1 was a must win, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, Let's embrace the chat. Let's see who's all in here today. We got Toy Mafia in the house. Oh, Daryl Leonard coming in, Go Broncos country. First comment, it's not Ernie Mays today. Ernie, where you at, Ernie? We got Buana Beast in the house. Buana, I hear you're feeling a little bit under the weather. Hope you feel better. Obviously, you're the man. Robert Kitchens. Charlie Beagle coming in first half, Noah Fant. Second half, no Fant. You've been sitting on that one, haven't you?
That's awesome. I love it.
We got Big E Bronco in the house. Aaron Dickerson. Duke, he's giving me a hard time. Duke's giving me a hard time about the dog. 30-minute mark. Nick's going to say, we got to get going. I need to take care of my dog. You know what? I didn't even get to say hi to the dog. So you guys, I'm hurting right now. So it's for you guys, though, so it's fine. Jake, we got Jake Gerard going in here. Holden Adams. So a lot of names in the chat. Dylan Von Arks, ZW Design. And Carl, we got to do the station identification, but let's hit this real quick. Welcome to the show, guys. Live streaming right now. Like, subscribe, share. We'll get to the station identification, everything going on here. But ZW coming in with the gorgeous shirt that I believe he designed himself with the super chat. Young team, no preseason, no worries. We will improve week by week and nothing will stop us. We will build off last night and grow victorious. ZW, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's get to the stuff we got to talk about before we really get into the meat and potatoes here. But ZW, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, we want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Head on over to sportsbetting.com for all of your NFL and sports betting needs. A great site with tons of great information for all sports bettors. With gambling now being legal in the state of Colorado, make sure you check it out. I can tell you I am absolutely kicking myself. I told everyone that I was thinking about taking the under in that game because I thought both teams would be running the heck out of the football, and I chickened out. I saw all those games where everybody was scoring all these points like crazy, and I thought, oh, man, okay, maybe week 1 is just going to be a crazy offensive explosion. Defense will catch up as the weeks go on. So I backed out, kicking myself for that one. But I'll try to not do that again. But again, head on over there if you can. Also know you can find us on Twitter. Make sure you come on over there. We love to chat with anybody and everybody. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH, Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. And of course, you can find the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. Make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating. Also, don't miss out on all of our great offseason content at milehighhuddle.com with Sports Illustrated. And know that our podcast is powered by Overtime Media. I did have to laugh the other day. My mom said that she tuned into our show. She goes, 10 minutes in. Do what?
Hopefully she had good things to say.
Yeah, she goes, you guys sound like you know what you're talking about. I just don't know football, so I don't know what you're talking about. But I appreciated that she tuned in for just a second. And yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about this a little bit because like I said, when you get a little bit of time away from the game, you get a little bit better perspective. It's not completely emotional of, oh, I can't believe how could they sign Melvin Gordon to this huge contract? He fumbled that game away. All these different things that you can throw out there that really come from an emotional place. And you can look back at this and say, okay, this is a playoff team, week one, with a strong running game, strong system already set up that's been there for a few years, all those things playing into their favor. Broncos, again, having injuries, Courtland Sutton going down just a few days before the game. That's a huge loss for that offense. I mean, your entire offense is supposed to be funneled through Courtland Sutton, and that gone. So it was a huge blow. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Losing Philip Lindsay. We got a question from Kenneth Booker coming in here for the super chat. Any word on Lindsay's foot?
I believe it's turf toe. I do not know the severity. That could last a while. Luckily, long term, that doesn't typically become an issue. But in the immediate, that could last a few weeks. It could really impact him. So it's unfortunate, especially because we saw him make a big pass catch the other day. I mean, yesterday, I was holy cow. Lindsay has hands. But that was it's unfortunate. Luckily, the Broncos have Melvin Gordon. But I believe it's turf toe.
Yep. So we'll see how that, again, every injury depends on severity.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Boye having a dislocated shoulder. Sometimes those go back in nice and simple, and there's no structural damage done in that situation. I mean, it's still going to hurt like heck, but there's no real problem with that. Other times when there's structural damage, that's when you get some real issues happening, and you're going to see him miss a few weeks. I don't know the severity yet of where that's going. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard that it seems likely that he will not play against the Steelers. I think that's what Mike Kliss said. He could play in a shoulder brace through pain, but he's going to be limited doing that. So I think right now, probably you don't see him, but we'll know more Friday. And same with Sutton. I think it's more likely Sutton's going to play than Boye. But I think the most positive news we have is KJ Hamler. It does sound like KJ Hamler is going to suit up and go. So that'll be exciting to see. If he can just get one big catch, that would be enough electricity for me on Sunday from him. But Broncos have injuries. That's a big thing. I would argue that they're missing their best player on both sides of the ball in this game, and they still played close. I mean, obviously Denver has a huge advantage at home, even without the fans there, week 1 and 2 because the altitude and conditioning, and they did cover. So that's good. Talking about some sports betting there, but that's a good thing, I guess, obviously. But yeah, it's a bummer. It hurts to lose. You will say, step away from it, not as emotional. I'm still a little bit emotional and irritated about Vic Fangio and the timeouts. Yeah. I mean, I can excuse away. Yeah. Kenneth Booker coming in. In fact, that's going to make me take a drink. I'm just even thinking about it. I need a sip.
But we got Terry Randall coming in with hashtag Nick's Beer Fund. So
I need it.
Yeah.
Yes, that 9 to 5. I need it.
And we're going to talk about that some stock up, stock down on some players and things like that. I'd say it's 50-50 between players and coaches of who really cost us that game.
Yeah, it's as far as the actual result, I would agree with you. But as far as me placing blame, I can excuse away the Broncos' young offense, missing Sutton. They are missing Von Miller. Todd Davis is gone, who's a signal caller, and just the offense is going to have so many ups and downs, not only because of the lack of preseason, but Sutton being hurt, Graham Glasgow's dealing with an injury as well. So all of that I can excuse that away. But then when you get to Fangio, you got to know better. I know he's just a second-year head coach, but I'm sorry, there's no excuse for that. You can't take those timeouts with you. You got them. And banking on Gostkowski missing a fourth kick, if you don't include the PAT, from chip shot range, that's dumb. I was literally yelling at the TV.
And his reasoning behind it today it was very frustrating, saying I was so focused on the defense, I didn't realize the clock was going.
He needs an assistant head coach or somebody in his ear.
Right. Yeah. Well, then give up that responsibility. If you can't handle all the responsibilities that you say you want to have, well, then you're just hurting the team. And that I mean, how many games now has that been where we end up the game with like 2 or 3 extra timeouts and no time on the clock because they scored at the last second and we didn't use them. And so this has become a recurring theme. I like a lot of what Vic Fangio brings to the team. I know that the defense yesterday had a lot of bend, don't break, and
red zone defense, baby.
Just kind of went that direction. Yeah. But still, you got to understand you are a head coach now. You are not defensive coordinator. And I mean, that's part of your job, but your main job has to be head coach. And so, yeah, that was a huge blow to the team right there. He is part of the reason that they definitely lost. There's other guys. So I guess let's get into it here a little bit. Let's talk about do you want to start stock up or stock down?
I think we should start with the stock down.
Okay. And before we get to that, let's get to a couple of these super chats. I want to make sure we get these in here. And Duke coming in here with a super chat. I was impressed with Michael O's play. Not bad at all for a rookie. # beard of knowledge. # Nick don't stop the pod early tonight. Appreciate that, Duke. And yeah, I know he's one of yours. I guess we could start with stock up then, since that one kind of flows. No? Okay. I'll wait on it. We'll wait. We got a few guys we're going to talk about, and he's definitely one of those that will make our list here. Chris Hernandez coming in here. # even coaches need preseason. Hard to argue with that. It's definitely shown up more than I'd like, and some rookie mistakes there by a coach that's not a rookie.
Frustrating. Yeah, so I guess, Carl, kick it off. Oh, here we go. And then, $10, Mr. Boggins. Not too worried about Chubb. Watch the All-22. He was either on the opposite side of the ball, doubled in coverage or gas. Also, Locke needs to stop fading and instead stepping up and throwing. Mr. Boggins, how'd you watch the All-22? I don't think that's out yet. I think that everybody's complaining because the All-22 is not out yet. So if you have that, you need to let some people know. Because I think all of draft Twitter and whatnot is like freaking out because All-22 is super late. Unless it just came out. But good points. I mean, we'll talk about some of these players in a second. A lot of these players we're talking right about in the chat right now are guys that we have in the stock up, stock down. So I guess I'll just go right into it. For me, the stock up or stock down. We're going to start with stock down. Mr. Boggins, I'll kind of contradict you a little bit, but I just want to add the caveat. For me, stock down a little bit in Chubb, just because he's obviously not quite ready yet. You can see the explosiveness. There was a couple plays where he got close to home. Ryan Tannehill's a very good athlete. You got to give him credit for that. But Chubb doesn't have Von Miller opposite him, which is obviously when you have an alpha pass rusher, you can have you can be the beta, Batman to Robin dynamic. But I think Chubb is stock down just because it's obvious now when seeing it on tape that he is not 100% back from that injury yet. And that's something that's going to be an issue for the defense. I do think you'll see him get better every week. And I think the interior defensive line is better than we thought. I think Jarrell Casey, obvious difference maker. Draymond Jones, despite that penalty, I mean, he was flashing like crazy. I had a really hard time keeping him off this list. But I think Chubb is somebody who's just stock down just because he's not there yet. That injury is still hampering him.
Yeah. There was a few times, honestly, with the pass rushers, I was disappointed. They were very late getting off the ball. Or they'd be late, or they'd be kind of walking up to the line almost. I mean, they were gassed when you only have really 3 guys playing for the majority of the game. One of them injured, like you said, coming back from that injury. 2 others that we're not expecting that they would be starting at this time or getting this many snaps. You could tell that there was just times they were not fully engaged in the play. And it was just kind of frustrating. And Chubb had a couple of those plays where you could just tell he wasn't quite ready for the snap of the ball and taking off and being an impact player. He did have, I think, 2 quarterback hits, but he didn't have any tackles, no tackles for loss. Then obviously he didn't even assist on a tackle. And so they really limited the kind of impact that he could make in the game. And so that meant obviously then Atachu could step in, and he deserves to be on the list. And I think we're going to talk about him at one point here coming up. But not Chubb's best game, but it is kind of getting his feet wet and getting him more ready as the season goes on.
It's a stock report, a lot of rumors or talk, people saying that he's not quite ready yet, or he's coming about slowly, not going to be 100%. And I'm somebody, until I see it on the tape, I don't know what to think. You can be led astray by anybody. And I mean, this as well as anybody covering draft prospects. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I had to see it for myself. Yep, the rumors are true. Chubb is still getting his feet under him. I'm expecting him to get better week by week. But just for the immediate impact, I think stock down is probably appropriate for assessing him. But I think he's going to have a big season. So I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to have to fill that Von Miller mantle.
Yeah. Mr. Boggins said, I have Game Pass and just watched the coaches' films. Maybe they just released it.
It must have. I know that people were freaking out.
I haven't been on since early afternoon. But all right, my first stock down, Justin Simmons. I don't feel like that was his best game by any means. I think there's a couple times he got caught peeking in the backfield. And I understand it's Derrick Henry. And even their coach wore a face mask that said, give the ball to Derrick Henry. And they tried to do that a lot. I mean, that's why he was held to not great yardage. He had a lot of yards, but not a lot of yards per carry.
Was not efficient.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, he is that guy that you're expected to pay as the top safety in football. And there were those times that he just looked out of position, looked out of sync, wasn't sure. The touchdown pass was another one where he broke inside. You left Kareem Jackson out there with two guys out in the flat, and it was an easy touchdown. And so just, again, some communication errors there in the secondary. That is, again, playing into the not having a preseason, not having those kind of live action snaps where you really got to talk through all those kind of things. So I do expect that he'll get better, but it was a game that disappointed me. He could have made a big play. He almost had that interception that could have maybe turned the game, and it went off his fingertips. Got caught a couple times in coverage where he just was out of position. So not his best.
Yeah. But, looking to get paid, and the Broncos are betting against him. So we'll see what it means. We're going to get to stock up here in just a second. But first, we got Peterson Creative coming in with the Super Chat. Saw the BTB boys were live and had to share some love. Impressed with the rookie CB. Mash the like button. And this is a good moment, guys. Also, go on over to thehuddleuppod.com to get your swag on. If you do like the BTB boys, you can get the Building the Broncos hat. Beautiful. My favorite of the collection. Carl, I will say that I have the Mile High Insiders hat on the way as well. So I'm going to have to kind of see how they fit, but I love this one.
Okay.
And also, guys, this is Building the Broncos. And if you like this show, if you like all our shows, subscribe, like, and share. Click those little thumbs up, as we like to say. So stock up now, as we were just talking about. Michael Ojemudia, obviously with A.J. Boye going down, that is a major concern because the Broncos could not be greener at the cornerback position. I mean, Bryce Callahan he's been around the league for a bit, but he did not play a lot early on. He really has only had one big season, 1.5, and didn't play at all last year. Now you're out there with Callahan and Bassey, and Ojemudia. And Ojemudia played well. I mean, honestly, he should have had that pick. That was a horrible call. I hate to blame the refs unless their name is Bill Vinovich. He gets all the blame no matter what. Ojemudia played really well, and for a third-round rookie cornerback, especially given the Broncos' recent trend of third-round rookie cornerbacks, Isaac Adam, Brendan Langley. I mean, even going back to Kayvon Webster, who was a good special teams player, but didn't really see the field as a defensive player. Ojemudia might have had the best game of any of them so far. So, that's awesome. That's great. So I definitely think Ojemudia stock up. I don't think he's ready to take over for Boye. Speedy recovery, Boye. Hopefully see him. But I feel really good about the flashes we saw from Ojemudia.
And throw in, he missed half of training camp.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy was coming in raw. And, yeah, he was only given this kind of amount of time to come in and play like that, to make some big-time plays. He only had the one really bad pass interference. And he just kind of got beat and got grabby, which a lot of college cornerbacks, they get away with it in college, don't get away with it in the NFL. So it's kind of expected that he's not going to be completely perfect day one. And but for, like I said, third round cornerback to come in after your number one cornerback goes down and hold him like that is pretty impressive. So I'll definitely give him lots of credit there. So I'll go another Iowa guy. Well, let's get to Kevin Peterson here first for a super chat. Hashtag crate the dog for an hour, Nick.
Poor pups. No, he's in his crate right now, so we'll get him out afterwards.
There you go.
But another Iowa guy. Wait a second. My ears perked up. Did you say another Iowa guy?
Another Iowa guy. Yes. Noah Fant. Everybody was kind of wondering when Cortland Sutton went down, who's going to be the number one guy for Drew Lock. And I don't know what happened that second half. I don't know if the Titans made some just incredible adjustments and said anybody but Noah Fant. And honestly, there were some others. There's Ernie. And there were some others that had opportunities to make plays and they didn't quite make them. We'll talk about those kind of guys here in just a second. But Noah Fant looked like the explosive weapon that the Broncos were hoping he would be as being a first-round tight end. Making plays, not only catching the football, that box out in it for the touchdown, that is something that he did not show last year. He did not show that kind of fight around the red zone. And so that was huge to see him do that. But also then just breaking tackles, working for those extra yards. That's something you love to see, that this guy's really showing he cares about what he's doing this year. And he has a great connection with Drew Lock, obviously. So I'm excited, especially when you get Cortland Sutton back and teams have to focus on him and you got Noah Fant. I mean, that's just so much athleticism on the field all at the same time. You got Jerry Jeudy. You're going to have KJ Hamler. There are exciting times ahead for this offense. It really can be one of the more explosive offenses in all of football. And it doesn't have to be those deep passes going. I mean, Drew Lock missed a lot of those deep passes. This can be that short passing game that still is explosive getting down the field.
Yeah, honestly, when Sutton comes back and KJ Hamler as well, and Judy's going to get better than he was this week. The space that Fant is going to have underneath. I mean, we saw it this week. He moves a different speed than almost any linebacker in the league. I mean, we obviously knew that in the combine, but he was just flying by guys. I don't know why he disappeared in the first half or in the second half. I'll have to go back and watch the game again. But either way, just do what he did in the first half, and then I'm sure the Titans to shift their coverage to take him away. From the tight end position, that's a rare skill, and that's really valuable. So even though he didn't get the ball like you'd want in the second half, I'm guessing he did dictate some coverage because he was killing them. So right. I'm really excited for Fant. I think he's in for a monster season. And honestly, would it be shocking if Fant became the number 2 weapon on the offense as far as the pass game goes? Yeah. I mean, because everybody's assuming Jeudy, first-round pick, 15 overall, but rookie wide receivers typically take some time. Yeah. I mean, they just do. And Fant, I mean, he looks primed and ready. So because Sutton's number 1 as long as he's healthy, but it might be Fant that number 2.
Yeah. All right, Kevin Peterson coming in with another super chat here. Albert O needs to be active next week. Well, I mean, I will say Jake Butt had the drop. That was not great.
He wasn't a great blocking either.
No, he wasn't. That was not a good game for Jake Butt.
Good to see him out there. Happy for him. But
still, yeah, like I said, when you're costing the team some precious yards, when you have a young offense that can't get itself off schedule and you have those kind of drops, it really does hurt them a lot. And I had to laugh because the commentators were blaming Drew Lock. They're like, oh, he's got to put that on him. I'm like, I don't think it gets much more on him than what he threw there. But that's here nor there. They were getting ready for the season as well. They made some mistakes in the commentary, but and then we have Poppy coming in here with a
23 for Ojemudia.
There we go. Sad that we lost the home opener, but I like what I saw in a young team. Enjoyed the game. Go Broncos.
Thank you, Poppy.
Yeah, appreciate that. And you're right. It's one of those games. Honestly, I felt like, the defense was giving up a lot of yards, but I love that the offense really could move at will. Even without Cortland Sutton, the people that were beating them the most were themselves. I mean, the Titans really didn't stop them a whole lot. There's maybe one drive that I felt like the Titans really stopped the offense. Beyond that, it was drops, penalties, just miscommunications, couple things just not quite right. Drew Lock overthrowing some open passes, just some things that can easily be cleaned up that are not because the defense did something great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we got to get the stock down again here. For me, I'm not going to take too long on this one. Jerry Jeudy, stock down, just because a lot of hype coming into the season. He's going to bounce back. This is probably hopefully my only chance to say stock down for him. But those drops, those were killers. And Jeudy works really hard. He's going to get better. I'm not thinking this is going to be a long-term issue. I will say that the drops were more prevalent in college than many people cared to acknowledge. I'm not going to be like Eric where, pounding the drum where, the drops are going to be a huge issue for Jeudy, but they rear their head week one. Contested catches, still don't know that much. Granted, he can get separation like he can. All that stuff is there. But I do think those drops, especially that last one, which is in such a critical point, stock down just because he's a first round pick, but he's going to bounce back. I have zero doubt about that, especially when Sutton comes back.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just a rookie trying to do too much.
Yep.
Wanted to be a really big time hero day one, stepping on the NFL field, made some critical mistakes, cost his team. You saw some other rookies do the same thing. Detroit's running back, Swift, that drop. Oh my gosh. I felt so bad for them in that one. But it happens. Rookies do that. They try to do too much. They learn, they grow. I'm not too worried about Jerry Jeudy. You got to see the separation. You got to see how elite he is at getting himself open in a hurry. And then you got to see his ability in the open field. When he caught some of those passes and just turned those extra yards in because of his ability to cut, that's why you see the special ability that this guy could bring, especially opposite of Cortland Sutton.
I really thought that catch he had right before the first half ended. Yeah, I thought he had a chance.
Yeah,
it was incredible. But he was making guys juke and he eventually ran out of bounds. But I'm like, this could be something. And gosh, how much more fun is that to watch? Him get the ball instead of Tim Patrick. No offense, Tim Patrick, but obviously Judy's coming back. So stock down, guys. This is a stock up, stock down section, but I think it's a positive overall. Fangio fumbled the game. We got Paul coming in. Paul, love you, Paul. I haven't seen you for a bit. How you doing? Most experienced staff in the NFL. Clock management issues should never happen. Boss Blue, I'm just happy Broncos football is back. Enjoy the journey in 20. That was a ride. I'm with you all the way on that whole thing, though, Paul. So I agree with you. I'm just glad it's back, honestly. We got to talk about actual real-life football. And we got Stu coming in, the pride of Seattle, in my opinion. Was very disappointed about no preseason and minimal practicing. We have nowhere to go but up. Stu, you say that, but the next two games are at Pittsburgh and then Tom Brady and Denver. So put that on pause because it does not get easier from here. But we'll see. So, Carl, we got to get your stock down.
Okay, I'll go. And this one, it's more just he had a few bad plays and just showed the same problems that he had last year. Elijah Wilkinson.
Yeah. Harold Landry.
Yeah. He's a decent pass rusher. I'll give him that. But it just still, Wilkinson with speed around the edge. That's going to be an issue. And I think of TJ Watt coming in this week where they're going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst matchups in all of football for this week. And
it really is.
They're going to have to really figure out how to scheme opportunities because this week it was great that Locke could really kind of drift out to the right. That was something that they schemed for, giving him more time and ability. When he throws on the run, he's great at it. But TJ Watt's probably not going to give up the edge like the Titans did this week. So you're going to have to probably do some work towards the left, but even there, they have some pretty good players on that side. So it's going to be a very tough matchup. Drew Lock's probably going to have to work to stay in the pocket a little bit more and trust that his line is going to hold up. And that's asking a lot. The offensive line didn't hold up this last week some of them did, some of them didn't.
It's weird though, because I feel like the offensive line did okay, especially in pass protection. But they were getting very little push in the run game, and the refs just were not calling holds. Was there a single offensive hold called? Because definitely, no doubt in my mind, the Titans' offensive line, I saw multiple holds where guys' jerseys were, turned sideways and arms in the air that just were not called. So, but they didn't call it either way, so I can't be that upset about it. Speaking of moving it to the left side, Garrett Bowles, stock up. How about that? I tentatively tweeted out. Again, I want to go back and see all 22 to really see what's up there. But Garrett Bowles on his way up. I had a very good game, especially again. Jadeveon Clowney won a few reps. Jadeveon Clowney's one of the biggest freaks in football. It's going to happen. But Garrett Bowles seemed like he was trusting his technique. He was being patient. And this was one of his more quiet performances in his career, I would say. So maybe the Broncos made a mistake not extending that fifth-year option. Maybe not extending that fifth-year option is the reason that he turned the corner. I mean, who knows? And that causality there. But I think Garrett Bowles definitely stock up. That was I feel as good about that left tackle position as I have in a long time. Next week, Bud Dupree, TJ Watt. They'll be interesting to watch, especially with how much Pittsburgh likes to blitz. Very aggressive team. They're going to send 5 guys often. But I think Garrett Bowles definitely deserves to stock up. He had a great game, and I think we should definitely take notice of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That was definitely one of his better games. I would say when they were getting pressure, it was more actually on the interior guys or Wilkinson than Bowles. You're talking about their new pass rusher, and a lot of his times that he won was when they put him over one of the guards. Yeah. Or he really cut inside where one of the guards is supposed to pick him up. And we'll talk about that in just a second. It might be a hint towards somebody on the list. But you're right. That was a great game for him, considering, and all the pressure being on him from fans, team, everything. For him to step up like that was huge. And the Broncos just need that moving forward.
And we got Mr. Boggins coming in real quick. We are a matchup nightmare with the Steelers right now. Mr. Boggins, expand upon that. What do you mean we are a matchup nightmare? Do you mean that the Broncos are going to be an issue for the Steelers, or the Steelers are an issue for the Broncos? Because that could go either way.
Yeah, they are. I had somebody right before the game that was messaging me. They were setting a lineup, and they were getting ready to pick Saquon Barkley to go against that Steelers defense. And I told them, I said, do not do that. And part of it is because I do think that Steelers defense stands a great chance to be the number 1 defense in all of football.
It's them or the Ravens, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly. AFC North is back, baby.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of weaknesses that you can attack.
No.
The corners are not the greatest. I will say that. It's probably the one area that you could say is average to above average. But they still have great safeties, great linebackers, great interior defensive line, amazing edge rushers. And
depth. So important on defense.
Right, exactly. And so it will be one of those, you're going to need the offensive line to step up. Broncos definitely need Cortland Sutton more in this game than they did against the Titans. And they're going to work to stop the run game with Melvin Gordon and kind of dare Drew Lock to have to beat him. And they're going to hope that Drew Lock makes a couple bad decisions. That's what they did against the Giants. Giants started off looking pretty decent against them. And then all of a sudden, mistakes started happening and compounding, and they started getting behind and just started panicking. So it'll be a tough matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carl, I think you're a stock up now.
Yes, I'm going to go Atachu.
Good one.
I thought he did a great job stepping up, and he had a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and he won a lot of those. He helped in the run game, got a couple tackles for loss, got the first sack of the season. Thankfully, Broncos last year it took till game 5 to get sack number 1. So they didn't wait that long this time, thankfully. And he should have had a couple more. He was right there, just real close to making some big plays for that defense. And so really excited to see him step up. And I loved him last year. I thought he was underrated. I know his PFF grade was not great. And I'm going, what are they watching? This guy's winning a lot more than you would think for a backup edge rusher. Now being a starter, I think he really showed himself why he is the next guy up.
Yeah, I was really glad the Broncos brought him back. I never expected him to get the reps that he's going to get now. But, he seems like a fit. And he was a second-round pick when they drafted him. He was always a kind of a height, weight, speed kind of guy. So definitely someone to watch for. Let me see. We're on stock down now. My last stock down is Dalton Reisner. Outside of that touchdown run block where he pulled, which was gorgeous, I felt like he got his rear end handed to him much of the night. Granted, Jeffrey Simmons, who was picked one pick before Noah Fant in the 2019 draft, is going to be one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. And we saw that he made plays all over. He had the red armband, so he really stood out. just against the rest of the Titans front there. But he was beating up on Dalton Reisner early and often. And granted, hats off to Jeffrey Simmons because he's going to be an incredible player. But I thought Reisner struggled overall, and it wasn't just Simmons. Also, I thought Reisner, especially in the run game, just not getting the push.
Yeah.
So that was an issue, especially in the first two quarters. I felt like the Broncos were kind of just banging their head against a wall. So granted, hats off to the Titans also. I mean, they schemed it up, but I felt like Reisner, for being the hyped up player he is in the offensive line, and for the standards that I had for him, I thought he could have been a little better. I think stock down for him. He just did not have the best game.
Right. No, I'm with you. My last one will be, and it's one of those, unfortunately, because he only gets a few plays a game. It's either he is a big time plus or a big time minus. Deontay Spencer. I think part of my issue is going back to last year. There are times he believes almost too much in himself. And as a punt returner, it is just as important to be smart with what you're doing as actually having big plays. Yeah. And is drifting back on that one punt return back to about the 5-yard line. He should have just let that go into the end zone. Instead, he thought, I can make this into a big play, ended up really pinning that offense back, and just not smart. And like I said, this is kind of coming back from last year. He has had some big plays, and yes, he was a Pro Bowl returner, but it is a little bit of boom or bust with him.
Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Yes, it's true. And so I just – there's times I'm really questioning whether they should continue forward with him as the returner.
And his days might be numbered with KJ Hamler getting healthier. So we'll see. We got Jay Roper coming in. Jay, that's some nice flow you got going there. Is that quarantine hair or is that typical? I could kind of go, I guess, hair follicle with you there. Do you think Dalton Reisner has hit his cap? I don't believe so. I think it's just probably a little bit. I mean, if there's any position, it's the entire offense, honestly. But the offensive line requires so much work and synergy that even when there's been normal off seasons recently, people have complained that the offensive lines are not ready because they just have not had enough padded practices out there to get that synergy, to get that cohesion. So you amplify that by like 10 billion given the circumstances this year. So I don't think Dalton Reisner has hit his cap. I do think that he's probably closer to his ceilings than a typical second-year player, just because he is older and he's not an athletic freak. He's not this guy who has this untapped potential. But I do think that Reisner has not hit his cap yet. He can get better for sure.
Yep. Okay. Kevin Peterson coming in here with a super chat. Appreciate that, Kevin. Stock down the cheerleaders. They're always 6 feet apart. Did they put on weight from quarantine? I need them in my life. Hashtag cardboard cutouts. Hashtag fire Goodell.
If anybody knows any cheerleaders, first of all, I guess send them. Is anybody single that we know in the podcast? Maybe just send him Chad's way. I'll send him Zach's way. He's single. We're married men, so we can't really do that. And I cannot speak on the weight, but we appreciate the comment there, Kevin.
And then Mundunga's coming in here. Going to be honest, Washington's front seven looks scarier than Pittsburgh's does. Hashtag overrated.
They've spent first-round pick after first-round pick after first-round pick on that line, and they have arguably, I would say, the second most valuable young pass rusher in football in Chase Young, only behind Myles Garrett. So, they're going to be good. Now, the question is that offense, Dwayne Haskins, the receivers they have, the offensive line, not good. And how far can a good defense take them this year, especially one with secondary questions? I don't know, but that's a good comment.
That's the difference between, to me, Steelers and Washington when it comes to overall defense. Yeah. Steelers have a better back secondary compared to what Washington brings to the table. And so while they might have a little bit better pass rush and defensive line going there, I just think that the secondary difference is what really separates them. And I need to see Washington do it on a more regular basis. They had one great game. And I do believe that they are great, but Pittsburgh showed it all of last season and then brought those players back. And so they're a proven commodity compared to what Washington, they got a lot of young guys that they're depending on to really step up and be all-stars in the league. Again, I think they will be. I just don't know if they're going to be as consistent as Pittsburgh's going to be all season long.
And Mitch Mann coming in. Huge respect for anyone who actually has dated a cheerleader. LOL. Mitch, that just made me laugh, so I wanted to give you a little highlight there. So
my wife was a cheerleader.
So was mine, but high school. So so I think you may be the NFL cheerleaders.
Yes.
There was actually a picture of me. This was before I liked girls, where I went to see the Broncos play the Rams in St. Louis. It was a preseason game. It had been like 1999. And I got a picture of the Rams cheerleaders that I did not want to get. And I didn't think girls were cool then. And my dad kept putting it up on the fridge, and I'd like crinkle it up and throw it in the garbage, and he kept taking it out and putting it on the fridge because it made me so upset. Looking back, I wish I knew where that picture was. It's probably destroyed now. But the final stock up here, and guys, everybody likes to talk offense. Everyone likes to talk defense. Special teams matters. Sam Martin, heck of a Broncos debut. I mean, we were actually asked on the Mile High Insiders multiple times. Luke was, at least, because he's been covering the Broncos on site as much as he can, given the state of the world. How Sam Martin's looking. He's like, you know what? I can't answer that for you. Test number 1, Sam Martin. Double thumbs up, man. Heck of a game. It kind of hurt a little bit seeing Brett Kern dominate because he's been one of the best punters in football. Right. Screw you, Josh McDaniels. Screw you, Josh McDaniels. Screw you, Josh McDaniels. But I was really happy with Sam Martin. And I know that was a sign that kind of caught me a little bit off guard when it happened this offseason. But, I mean, if the Broncos can play good defense and they can, when the offense doesn't score and they can pin them back like Sam Martin was, I'll take those odds. I think he looked really good. I was impressed. I'm not a specialist by any means, but the Sam Martin, good job. Yeah. I was impressed.
And I got to give it to the coverage units too.
Yeah.
They did a good job getting down there, and something that the Broncos struggled with the last couple of years, they would really clump together and they would give a window to the outside for a returner. They did a great job of spreading out where they'd have 4 or 5 guys and a returner would look at them and go, which I have nowhere to go. So I was really impressed with the coverage units getting down the field and being ready to make a tackle and actually making the tackle.
Yeah, I thought Trey Marshall and Malik Reed specifically and Tyree Cleveland specifically stood out in special teams coverages. So I want to give them a shout out. Special teams matters.
Yep. Yeah. So my final one is Bassie.
Okay.
I for again, undrafted rookie coming in week 1. This is a guy that was in some eyes a long shot to even make the roster. And then all of a sudden he's getting significant snaps week 1, and he didn't look lost. He wasn't perfect by any means, but again, undrafted guy week 1 to come out there and perform like he did. I have to give him quite a bit of credit for doing that.
I thought that he did struggle a bit. There's that area between Bassie and Jewell and Simmons where the Titans repeatedly, at least on my first view, I need to go back and see it, apparently because the All-22's out now. But there's that just area there where the Titans repeatedly exploited, especially Corey Davis running the same route over and over again. Yeah. The Broncos could not figure out what to do on that one. But I thought Bassie was okay, but given the parameters you set,
right,
I definitely think he deserved it. So we got Truce to Poet coming in. Ref stock down for the call against AJ nullifying an INT. Yeah, that one was bad. So we'll call it as it is. You know, sometimes the refs make mistakes. They're human, but that one sucked. So
that one. It was.
That's a football play. I mean, you're going to go out there. You want to go out there and be mean. That's something where if I saw that in a college game, and granted, if the play was dead and he did that, or like the guy kind of antagonized him and did it, I'd be upset. But the fact that he's going out there and trying to be an enforcer within a play while the whistle has not blown yet, that's a positive up. That guy wants to go out there and get dirty. I mean, that guy wants to go out there and be physical. That's a positive. So it sucks in this instance, but I mean, I don't even think it was a penalty. So whatever.
It was pretty ticky-tack for sure. It was called, and unfortunately it hurt the team, and just have to be smarter, I guess, moving forward. But again, I don't want him to lose that aggressiveness either.
Oh, no way.
So be smart, but be aggressive. I mean, just you got to find that fine line there that works.
Balance.
Yep.
You don't want to be perfect.
Yes, exactly. Or the Titans linebacker
Evans,
getting ejected.
Yeah.
And I've seen him do that a couple times where he's throwing punches after plays, and
he's out head.
So I didn't know that they were going to throw him out like that. That was kind of a shock right there.
It's the new rule. I think that's the new rule.
Yeah.
There we go. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I thought this was a great question here from Jay Roper. Do you guys see any big moves coming now? Do you seek the Jags for Miles Jack? Do you look at a pass rusher because of Vaughn? Do you look at right tackles? Do you look at a cornerback? Nick?
I mean, I think if Boye is injured for a while, you look at cornerback for sure. Even though Ojemudia looked good, Bassi was in there, Callahan was out there, I still think you need to look for a cornerback. Although maybe you'll call up Bosby, but I don't know. I think there's options out there at cornerback that can at least provide some serviceable play.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I know. I also, before we get going, we got to talk Drew Lock for sure. I see it in the comment section here. Yeah, stock up for Josie Jewell, especially that tackle on Derrick Henry. I see Truth's coming in. Jewell did play better than I thought he would. He's still a little bit of a shrimp in terms of coverage. He's just going to have issues in zone coverage because he can't reach. He's also not that fast, but he's quick and he's smart and he played better than I thought he would. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays against a different style of offense rather than one that's plow ahead where it's going to put him a little bit more in space. But Jewell definitely deserves a shout out for stock up. Before we get going, though, guys, we got to talk lock, but this is the Building the Broncos podcast. Follow us on Twitter at BTB Football Pod. Also, even more important, follow the site account at Mile High Huddle. This is all on Twitter. And very important, subscribe, like, and share on YouTube and click those little thumbs up, heart reaction, heart emoji, the thumbs up, whatever you want to do. Positive reactions, no negative emotions or emojis out there for Facebook. Carl, we have not talked about lock hardly at all yet. We have to do that.
Yeah.
So I guess just before the comment section gets going here, your general thoughts on Lock after a week 1 performance.
So let me give 2 negatives and then a lot of positives.
Okay.
Because it was definitely not a perfect game, which if you were expecting a perfect game from Drew Lock on his 6th start and after an offseason like we just had, especially after losing his top guy that he has trusted all offseason in Cortland Sutton, yeah, that was never going to happen. So a couple things. He was drifting a lot in this game. And I do think that comes from just all of training camp, seeing his offensive line struggle. And there were times where he did it when he didn't have to. That's the part that just kind of gets to me, that there were times where the pocket was right there. Instead, he decided he had to get to the edge. And while it worked against the Titans, again, you're going to go against a team with TJ Watt, with Bud Dupree. Those guys, I think, could hold up better on the edge and could maybe turn those plays into a negative play against the Broncos, where the Titans couldn't. They didn't have the greatest edge players. Clowney, yes, he's a great edge player, but he's more of a guy that likes to crash inside and make plays with his strength and power that way. So this is going to be a whole new ball game this week, that he needs to really trust that interior offensive line and be able to step up into the pocket. Second thing, with that drifting then, he made a lot of throws off his back foot. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it again, but especially his deep throws, a lot of those were him drifting backwards, throwing off that back foot, and you lose accuracy when you do that. Now, he got to show off his strong arm, that he could be on his back foot and overthrow a go route. That's impressive in the NFL. But it's an incomplete when those could have been touchdowns. And so last year he did it some, but I thought he was better last year of stepping into more of his throws than he was in this game. So those are 2 negatives that I saw in this game. The positives, intermediate throws, he looked great. He really did. He was accurate. He was smart, and he just really was on time with a lot of those throws, did a great job on the run, using his athleticism to make plays, was smart and being able to see the holes at times in the defense. That touchdown again to Noah Fant. He was directing Noah Fant, hey, go to this spot. I'm going to throw it to this spot. You be there. And that was a smart play. One of those that not every quarterback in the NFL can make that throw or would even dare to attempt that throw. So those kind of things were great. I thought for the most part, his decision-making was pretty spot on. He had a couple throws that obviously could have been picked off.
Should have.
But Patrick Mahomes had a couple throws in that Thursday night game that should have been picked off too. So it's going to happen that there's going to probably be one or two throws a game that might get picked off or should have been picked off kind of thing. But for the most part, I did like most of his decision making.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can take away watching this game as a positive is that Drew Lock is a playmaker. I mean, he is. He's not running out there like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, but the fact that he can bring any sort of athleticism and playmaking ability from the quarterback position extended so many drives that the Broncos have not been able to do for the last, since Jake Plummer? I mean, since Jake Cutler maybe. But
Yeah.
Seriously, like plays where he would escape, and even if he's just picking up 8 yards, that's such a difference maker instead of a sack to Joe Flacco or Case Keenum.
Right.
And also, I love your point, especially the intermediate middle of the field. He was not only accurate, but the timing was good. There's a couple plays, I think it was a slant to Tim Patrick, where there was a linebacker in the middle of the field playing a hook zone, and he looked to the left, and that linebacker was paused, and then he immediately came to that window that was vacated and hit that slant for a first down and Tim Patrick. So there's things like that where the mental side of the game, you can see it improving.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct, though, in that his footwork, especially he's falling off the mound, so to speak. So it wasn't just drifting backwards. It was kind of this like to the left kind of thing where he was throwing and that he would lose his accuracy. So that's still that base mechanics, which is something that, you don't want him to be a robot back there. But when it's not replicated, you lose your mechanics, you lose accuracy. And we saw that a few times. Overall, I think it was a good game. I would give him probably a B grading on the curve considering everything going on for him. Probably a C in the scope of like actual NFL franchise quarterbacks. It wasn't a great game, but he was missing Sutton out there. Obviously, KJ Hamler's going to be back. And the Titans have a good defense. I know they're missing Dory Jackson, but they have a good defense. So I think it was an okay game from him. I want to see more. There are obvious things that he needs to improve on. He got very lucky on 2 plays where that probably should have been picked. Probably should have been picked. So that's going to happen this year. I do love, though, I felt like last year, even though the Broncos won the games against the Raiders and the Lions, he kind of went into a little bit of a shell, playing very conservative. There were plays to be had deep that he just was not taking. Didn't feel like that was the case against the Titans. I feel like he was being aggressive deep, even though he was not super accurate. And that touchdown to Fant, talk about playmaking. I think I saw that was the lowest probability touchdown of the week in the NFL, just from where he was running and where the target was and where the defenders were. It worked. But sometimes you're going to have plays like that where it's a pick and you're going to be upset. So, it's the give and take of having a gunslinger. Overall, I think very good game or solid game overall, and definitely areas to move forward. I will say, though, there were a few plays where, I wish Cortland Sutton was out there. Because if it was Sutton out there, more confidence. Also, those jump balls. A couple plays deep, they had him. Not super accurate. But if it was Sutton, I don't know. Maybe it's just me believing. But I think those balls might have been at least pass interferences.
Right.
So
I do want to talk about one more thing that kind of impressed me. Pat Shurmur showed that he had complete trust in Drew Lock late in the game. Now, yes, there were drops that cost him, but they were good passes. And the fact that when they're trying to run down the clock, they're trusting their quarterback to throw. Now, you could argue that was not great clock management by Pat Shurmur in some ways, but I still thought they had to be aggressive at that time. When you only got that 1-point lead, and you're trying to you need to go score. You really do. You need to get some kind of points on the board, make them have to score a touchdown. And the fact that they were trusting him on first down to go out there and pass, wide receiver has to catch that. Absolutely has to in that kind of moment. That's not on Drew Lock. But the fact that these coaches are going to trust him more, last year, it really was. They got a lead and they're like, we're shutting you down. And I don't know if that was because they just didn't trust Lock, or it was just because that was the whole Scangarello. That's exactly how he functioned, because he did that with other quarterbacks too, not just Drew Lock. But I did like that they actually trust their quarterback to be the franchise guy.
Yeah, I agree. So it's going to be interesting to see the next few weeks. Steelers might have the best defense in football. And honestly, Tampa Bay's defense is very underrated. I don't know if you caught much of that Saints-Tampa Bay game, but Tampa Bay might have the best 1-2 linebacker punch in football this year.
Right.
Levante David and Devin White. Oh man, they were flying. Like, this is going to be a big game. So really tough for the Broncos. Does not get easier from here. It gets worse. So this will be. We're going to find out about Drew Lock quick.
Is it weird that I'm more worried about the Bucs defense and their offense?
It completely depends on Mike Evans' health for me. Because if Boye's out, yikes. Yikes.
I guess part of it for me is their offense looks so out of sync.
Yeah.
And now I understand it was week 1, but I've heard that even in training camp, it's been pretty out of sync this entire time. They're trying to meld these two very opposite offenses of what Tom Brady's done and what Bruce Arians loves to do. And we saw that with Kubiak and Peyton Manning. You try to meld two things that are incompatible. It's like two magnets, where you have the positive on the positive. They're going to push against each other instead of work together.
Yeah. At the same time, bringing it back to the Broncos, you have that 2012 season where the Broncos started off, 2-3, and then all of a sudden it clicked. So, I mean, luckily the Broncos are getting them
early.
Week 3. Yeah. But, I mean, these are two very good defenses coming. I think Tampa Bay actually had one of the top 5 defenses in football last year in the second half of the season. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Also, Shaq Barrett homecoming. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. Right. Obviously, it's going to be a big game next week. Carl, any last takeaways? Because we are getting long, guys. We got to get out of here. We appreciate the chat still being here. We still got 200 or I guess 400 eyeballs in here, according to our information. But anything you want to talk about before we get on out of here?
Yeah, this is a great point by Terry Randall. Best stat of the night, 0 interceptions. Given there were a couple that could have gone that way. But like I said, there's always a couple passes a game for most quarterbacks. The worst ones obviously have a few more. But for the most part, I did like his decision-making. And really, I guess I'll say this. I really was impressed by the offense. I thought they'd be a lot more out of sync than they were. There were still some moments that they were out of sync. But wide receivers were getting open, getting to their spot. Drew Lock was hitting them when he had his opportunities. They were getting first downs when last year they would not have gotten a lot of those first downs. They still struggle in that third quarter. That's something that happened last year. And I just hate it. I hate that the Broncos just seem to completely shut down, fall apart right after the half, and all of a sudden they just turn into a pumpkin. And so I don't know what they need to do to remedy that, but really I'd say Vic Fangio needs to look at that. What are we doing at halftime? How can we improve this? Because this is 17 games now, and it's not worked.
And this was the 5th game where the Broncos have had a lead in the 4th quarter and lost, and I believe the 4th game where they've lost in the last minute of the game in 17 games of Vic Fangio. So not great, but hopefully, guys, something to improve upon. Overall, main takeaways for me, Broncos came down to the last minute. Unfortunately, Gostkowski got a vindication, I guess, and the Broncos played close despite a new offense with so many young guys and missing their best player on defense and their best player on offense. So the season's probably going to be a roller coaster, but it's going to get better. And the perspective always was this year, up and down, young team, older defense, but still, I mean, probably it revolves around Drew Lock and that offense. Going to be sporadic, going to be erratic, and 2021 is looking brighter and brighter. It really is. So
I always thought if they could go 2-3 through the first 5 games, I would feel very good about their chances to make that late push to make the playoffs.
Very good. Very good.
Very good, actually. One, because they got an extra playoff spot this year. So I think 9-7 can get the job done. I do think when you're getting Cortland Sutton back, you're getting KJ Hamler back, it just makes this offense just ecstatic. I mean, it just electric. That's the word I'm looking for. So I do like that. I think there's some real opportunity for something there. The defense, they can't suffer many more injuries, though. But they don't have to completely carry the team, hopefully this year. Hopefully the offense can really get things going. We got another super chat coming in here from Truce to Poet, coming in last second for us. Thank you. Appreciate that. Pittsburgh stock down just for being on the schedule. # Mile High Mafia. Well, hopefully we can see a victory this next week, really surprise the NFL. Not many are probably going to give the Broncos much chance in this one. And so it would be great to see a young team get a huge confidence boost by beating a top team in the NFL.
Yeah, one of the best teams, one of the best defenses, and it looks pretty darn good. So, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We went to the full hour, so somebody tell Duke that I left my puppy upstairs. He's doing okay. That's going to wrap it up for Carl and myself. Find us on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, and myself at Kendell, MHH. Go to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Also, guys, like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. Leave a like or a heart on Facebook, and also go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, as all that stuff that you guys can do can really help us and will propel us to continue to bring these Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content, again, by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to these shows. Carl, any words of wisdom before we get on out of here?
No, just don't let 1 week really define how the season's going to go. Don't let one bad game by a player define their entire career. Remember, it's a long season, it's a long career, and we got plenty of season to watch and see what this team can do.
Absolutely. So, guys, we're going to get on out of here. Appreciate y'all. 0-1 right now, but it's going to be better tomorrow. And as always, go Broncos.